So let's talk a little bit about dialectical behavioral therapy. This is one of the most well supported and researched forms of therapy for borderline personality disorder. So it is really designed to help with intense emotions, impulses, and building healthy relationships. And to do that, it breaks the skill sets down into two different um, sections. One being we're looking at the idea of acceptance of how things are and what's going on. And the other set of skills is going to look at change and how we can make changes to better handle and react to what's going on in our lives. So, when we're looking at the idea of acceptance, the first two modules are mindfulness and distress tolerance. So, mindfulness is really about being able to tune yourself into the present moment. A lot of times, our anxiety exists in the past or the future. So, like, oh my gosh, I wish that this didn't happen, or like, what if this happens? And mindfulness is going to eliminate that and look at what is happening in this current moment. And we're going to just try to accept it. We're going to name what's happening for us, no matter what it is. Especially, it's really hard when there's unpleasant emotions and you have to sit and say, like, oh my gosh, I'm anxious or I feel distressed right now, but we're going to acknowledge it and we're not going to try to change it. We're just going to be like, and that's okay. I'm allowed to feel this way. Um, and you're really going to just tune into what's happening in your body, and try to eliminate the things that might be outside of that. When we look into distress tolerance, while there is an active component to this, we're still not trying to change anything. And we'll talk a little bit more about those skills in a minute. But distress tolerance is looking like there is an active trigger, there is a situation happening, you are uncomfortable, and we're going to do some skills that are meant to more so calm your nervous system and your brain so you can get into that more wise mind, which is another skill that we'll talk about. So that you can actually handle the situations. We're actually going to take a step back, and these skills are not necessarily meant to literally change anything that's happening. It's just meant to regulate you until you're ready to make change. So then we move over to the change skills, and this is where we have emotional regulation and interpersonal effectiveness. So the emotional regulation is kind of like the long-term skill for distress tolerance. This is something that we're working on in the background day to day, starting to build up your confidence that, like, you know that whatever comes your way, you can handle it. The emotional regulation skills really focus on being prepared for life to happen, but not being overwhelmed by the fact that life is going to happen. And then in our fourth module, we look at interpersonal effectiveness, which is really just a fancy way for talking about like learning how to communicate and set boundaries in a really healthy way with your loved ones without displacing some of those big emotions or projecting them onto other people. So those are the four modules we look at. We'll kind of jump into a little bit more about like what those skills look like, and it kind of gives you a layout of when to use each skill.